I'm sorry, I can't tell you if it's the power outage or I don't know, but my live went off. Sorry. So I've started another live. So I was saying that if someone is virally suppressed, then they're less likely to pass on the virus to someone. Also, I'm saying that if you make a decision to have unprotected sex with someone, then you must be at that place where you're okay if you contract HIV from them. You're actually saying to someone, I trust you and I feel good with giving you with having unprotected sex with you. So if you contract HIV from them, then you are comfortable with it. You have to think about that before you have unprotected sex, because apart from viral suppression, there's also the window period, that someone could be in their window period when they take the test and they get a negative result because the antibodies haven't started showing up in their system. Their bodies, like I explained last week, haven't started to fight the virus, so there are no antibodies to prove, and that's what we test for, the antibodies, to prove that that person has the virus. So the person could be in their window period as well. So it is advisable that if you're going to do couple testing with someone, that you go do the test, first test, show that you're non-reactive, you abstain. But the hardest thing is to know if your partner is abstaining. You know that you're abstaining and keeping yourself safe until your second test, but you don't know if your partner is abstaining, and that's the hard thing. If people are together most of the time, it's more likely that you would know if your partner is abstaining, but you have to ensure that both parties abstain until you go take that second test in 2 months' time, 6 weeks to 2 months. Usually 2 months, because that's the longest it would take for the antibodies to start to show up in your system. And then you go and do that second test before you decide to have unprotected sex. And even when you decide to have unprotected sex, having both got negative results, you still have to remain faithful to each other. Because if one of the partners decide you're going to be unfaithful, then HIV is going to come into the picture. So again, I say, if you love someone and you feel that you trust them and you're safe enough to have unprotected sex, what you're actually saying is, I'm okay if I contract HIV from you. Because if persons are unfaithful, they can't pick up HIV and bring it home, even though the relationship started with both persons being negative. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because of what the comment the person had made, because she was quite worried that someone might be virally suppressed if she should meet that person and go and get tested with them, and the test shows that they're non-reactive, but the person could be virally suppressed instead of being HIV negative. Good. So today we're looking for the positives in the negative. This COVID-19, it's a negative. This pandemic is a negative. We cannot say that it's a positive thing. It's a negative thing that has happened. But for every negative thing that happens to us, we should look for the positive. And there are positives in every negative. You know, sometimes things happen to us and we wonder and say, why did this happen to me? And say, all right. I usually say, okay, I don't know why this is happening now. Maybe I'm going to know it in a time to come. And so eventually something might happen and we say, oh, that is why that happened. I remember when I cut off my locks at the time, when there was a time when I was diagnosed with cancer and I lost all my hair, and so my hair had to be short. I remember Margaret asked me, Desiree, why did you cut your hair all those years? And I said, well, I'm sure I didn't cut it because of what happened now. But the fact that I had already cut it, it wasn't a case where I had all these long, beautiful locks and I lost them during my chemotherapy. So sometimes you don't know why this is happening and you feel so terrible and you hate it and you wouldn't like it to happen to you. But then eventually you get to find out that there was a positive in this. So let's look at some of the positives that came out of COVID-19, that pandemic. First of all, people get to understand how people who are HIV positive feel. And we have to keep we have to keep looking at HIV and the pandemic and COVID-19 in the same breath, because they're both viral infections, like I shared with you earlier, and similarly asymptomatic, but with the exception that you can get HIV from the air and you can get COVID-19 from. But they have the same kind of stigma attached to them, except that when we learned about HIV in Guyana, they said it was a gay disease. It came from gay men. It was a certain section in society, the most vulnerable. So there was stigma and discrimination attached to, especially men who have sex with men. They were already facing a stigma because of their sexual preference. And then after people started saying that it's just a gay disease, then they're saying, okay, these gay people bring this thing, and they had a finger to point. With COVID-19, you can't point any finger to any particular person. Because anybody, if you're exposed, if you don't wear your mask, if you're exposed to COVID-19, someone sneezes, someone coughs, and you contract it, it doesn't matter who you are. You can contract it. So you don't have a finger to point and say, well, is this section of society getting it, or is this kind of people getting it, or is them people getting it, is now we, because HIV used to say this now we thing, this them people thing now. COVID-19 is all of ours. So one positive thing that is coming out of it, and I find it positive, that now people understand how people who have HIV feel, what they go through, and they can face a similar stigma and discrimination like persons who have HIV faced for years and are still facing. Can you even imagine if someone who's HIV positive then contracts COVID-19? Can you even imagine what kind of a stigma that person can face and what kind of a care they need? Persons who have HIV already have one disease, because there's no cure for HIV, that the body's addressing, and now contract COVID-19. How do you then care for someone who has COVID-19 as well as HIV, who would need more help? Because the body now has two viruses that it has to fight. And remember, for each virus you get, the body produces these different types of antibodies. So it's a different type of fighting. It's a fighting, but it's not fighting with the same antibody. So it's putting the body under pressure. And so those people who are HIV positive and have COVID-19, they need more care and support than persons who just have COVID-19 or just HIV positive. If you have both of those viral infections together, then God help me, you need so much support. We need, especially where mental health is concerned, because you're thinking that you're going to die because you have HIV, and then now when you get COVID-19, say, I'm going to die more fast. Also, when we first heard about COVID-19, we heard that persons who had pre-existing conditions and the elderly were the persons who were most at risk. And so persons who were HIV positive really got scared that, oh my God, they didn't even want to go. Some people didn't want to go to the clinic because they're fearful that they might contract COVID-19 if they should visit the clinic and somebody should cough and they didn't cover their mouth and that kind of thing. So that's one thing that I think it's good that came out of this, in that persons understand how people with HIV feel, the kind of stigma and discrimination that they face, that they go through. When COVID-19 is concerned, is over, we will all understand what stigma and discrimination is. And those people who are not protecting themselves, they have to be very conscious that the COVID-19 is also, the coronavirus is also, some people are also asymptomatic, in that they're not showing any signs or symptoms, but they do have the COVID-19. Don't take any, someone might be next to you not showing any symptoms, don't have any fever, don't have any cough, don't have anything, but they do have the virus and they could cough and pass it on to you, and you could become symptomatic depending on how healthy your body is. Because if your body's not healthy, you're going to get ill fast and start showing the signs, just like HIV. So be careful. Don't take anything for granted and assume because someone does not show any sign, they don't have any cough, they don't have any fever or anything, that they don't have COVID-19. Because remember, there are people who have it and who are symptomatic. As a matter of fact, there are a lot more people who have it that are symptomatic rather than not. That's why the US is now trying to test everyone, because in testing everyone, you will get to find those people who are asymptomatic but also have, but even though they're asymptomatic, they do have the COVID-19. And so you have to be careful here. Wear your mask. Ensure that anyone just like HIV, we said before, you have unprotected sex, you have to think that anyone you're going to have unprotected sex with is HIV positive. And so even now, anyone you come into contact with, you have to think that they have the COVID-19 and protect yourself. Do all the necessary things to protect yourself. Wear your mask, practice the social distancing, ensure that you too cough in the crook of your hand and in your arms. And ensure that you do the right thing so that you would not contract COVID-19. So that's one thing that is going to happen after this COVID-19, that people are going to get to understand what people who had HIV went through and are still going through because of being HIV positive. Also, people are getting to know their partners and their children. I spoke to a young lady and was asking how things are going, and she said, "Oh, my dad and my dad." And I've never heard her talk about her dad like I'm hearing her talk about her dad. No, parents are getting to know their partner. People are getting to know their partners and their children more than they used to, because people were busy out there hustling to get the daily bread and wasn't paying much attention to children, saying, "Look, you better, I'm bringing home this money, you're getting your food, you're getting a shelter over your head, you're getting clothes, what more you want." But now that people are at home, they're getting to understand what is happening with their children. They're getting to understand their children's feelings. They have to listen to them before they can say, "Shut your mouth, I need to do something, I got to get out and go to work." No, you're right there now, and so now you have to listen. Now you have to. Now you get to observe. Now your children, and you get to spend quality time. Isn't that a great positive thing that has happened as a result of COVID-19? Fathers, I know a lot of fathers are complaining about being at home and don't want to be there, but they're there, and in order to be safe, they need to be there. And in being there, they're also getting to know their partners. Partners are looking better for their husbands and their wives. Before, we take a lot of stuff for granted. We go to work, we don't pamper ourselves, we don't look well. They say, "Oh, it's me, he there for 20-something years, you know, he know how everything look him. He ain't got for spruce up and do nothing." Now that your partner seeing so much of you, it's just like courting days starting all over again. You got to spruce up, take care, and at the same time, while you're doing that, you're not only doing it for your partner, you're also doing it for yourself, keeping yourself healthy. Get your pan and soak your feet and look after you, do your own pedicure and your own manicure. You can get your nail file and file up your nail and fix up yourself and look like, smell up good, you know, that kind of thing, because you all day you can't just smelling like a kitchen mechanic, or like if you're sweating down doing some gardening work. Even if you go in your kitchen garden, when you come, you have to bathe and fresh up and nice. So partners are getting to spend quality time with each other, and also getting to spend quality time with the children, and that is such a beautiful thing. Although there's some people who can't stand the sight of their partners because their interest was outside, and so now that they have to see this partner all the time, a lot of guilt coming into play. And I'm hoping that during this period that people are able to come together and discuss their differences and try to sort things out, so that after COVID is over, we will find there are a lot of more beautiful relationships happening at this time. So think about that. No, we got to pay more attention to, we are now planting. I just spoke about planting. There are a lot more people planting. There are people who are planting who said they never even thought a day would come when they would be planting stuff. And watch, after COVID-19, people are still going to be planting, because it's a beautiful thing to reap. When you plant and you're reaping your first crop, I can tell you, it's a beautiful feeling. It's like you want to show it off, you know. And even when you're eating it, it's almost as if it's tasting different. I think it is tasting different, because a lot of people who are doing kitchen gardens are not doing, they're not using fertilizer. So it's really good stuff. It's so people like, "Oh my God, this thing tasting good." When I saw the first tomato, it's nice and big and red, and it's so juicy. Like my mouth run water lele. And so a lot of people are finding out that we can do gardening. We can have a kitchen garden. We can plant stuff, and it's quite simple. And really a lot of what we're planting is coming. We haven't bought seeds. A lot of what we're planting is coming from what we eat. So when you eat the pumpkin, you save the pumpkin. If you see my pumpkin plant, everything today we did gooseberry syrup. We got the seeds. We're going to plant gooseberry trees. So we don't have to go anywhere to buy the seeds. Everything that we eat, we can use it to plant a kitchen garden and reap. So that's another thing that is happening with us, that we find that we're becoming all these planters. People like, everybody gonna be planting when this thing over. This is what's gonna happen in the market. But you can't plant everything you like to eat. You will have to buy some, but you still plant, and you have and a beautiful thing that's happening in my area. My neighbors are sharing. When my neighbors reap their crop, they share. When we reap, we share. The next neighbor over the other side, he comes all the time. As soon as he reaps, he comes to this pan down the road. It kind of, I grew up in Kitty Village, in Kitty. And it was a village then. It was not a part of Greater Georgetown. It was Kitty Village. And we used to have that same kind of a camaraderie and neighbor looking out for neighbor. Nowadays, people don't even know who living next to them. So that's a beautiful thing. You know who your neighbor is. My my neighbor coming down the road with his pan, his silver pan in his hand, with his boron, his okra, and bringing it, in, and then my son sharing plans that he have with him. And it's a really wonderful thing. And that's who we are. We are our brother's keeper. And so we have to continue this long after COVID-19 is over, because what we're realizing is that we need each other, and we need to always keep looking out for each other. We have to start paying more attention to our health. When we learned, people have started paying more attention to their health. More people are using their vitamins, vitamin C, especially in vitamin D, because they realize it can boost your immune system. When you realize that the people who are most at risk are the people who had pre-existing condition, now you know that you can't wait until you don't feel well and to take care of your body. You have to take care of your body all the time. So the positive thing is that people have started to take care of their bodies differently. People have started to rest some more. I am even using coconut oil, people, to rub my skin. People are using their vitamins. People are eating healthy, and you could afford to eat healthy because it's coming from your kitchen garden. So there is a positive, that you now know that it's important that your body be healthy, because if anything should happen and you should contract any infection, then you know that you'll be more at risk, because your body's already under pressure. And if it comes, and if another infection, if you pick up another infection, to put extra burden on your immune system. So the positive thing is that now people are going to start thinking about keeping their bodies healthy throughout their lives, and not only when something happens or if they should get sick with something. So that's another positive that is happening as a result of COVID-19. We now have more respect for teachers and nurses. We walk in the hospital, we speak to the nurses anyhow. We cuss them out because we think they're looking after the family properly. We go into school, we abuse down the teacher, we fight them down, we stamp them, we kick them, we call them all manner of names. And now when we're at home and we have to do homeschooling, now we realize how valuable our teachers are and what they have to go through with our children, the children that we rear, that we hardly have time for. And so now people are going after this. I hope it stays that way. You heard a lot of people posting on Facebook, oh, how miss when school open, anything you want you can get from me. Oh, tell me what you want. It wouldn't be the same. I'm going to look at you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make, there are a lot of people making a lot of confessions now that they have their children and they have to homeschool them. I hope the same thing happens when this COVID pandemic is over, because people during the time on the suffering, you're hollering, you're screaming, you do stuff, and when that is gone, you forget all about it and you're gone back to your old ways. And so I hope that all these new things that are happening, these positives that are coming about as a result of a COVID-19 pandemic, that people stick to them, because they're good things. They're things, they're keepers. They're things to keep that will make our lives and the lives of our family and our children much better in the long run. And now you will also be facing a lot of stigma and discrimination when people contract HIV. So be careful where you point your finger. All right, so I said a mouthful. So I want to share our ship for today. So Marvin Wilson has a question. Let me just address that first. If someone is virally suppressed and they missed a few pills, what happens? So if you're virally suppressed, you have to keep drinking the pill to keep the suppression. We don't need to go to university to know that. If a pill is causing your body to be virally suppressed and you stop taking that pill, the virus will start to act up again, meaning to multiply. Because if this is the thing that's suppressing it and you decide you don't want to take it, then it's going to start acting up again, because there's nothing to suppress it. So you have to, as long as you're on, you have to keep, it doesn't matter that you're virally suppressed, you should keep taking your treatment. And anything other than that, you have to get that from your doctor. Your doctor will decide for whatever reasons. If people, we have 2 lines of treatment, and if someone, their body has become immune to the first line, then they move them to the second line. And so your doctor can tell you, if you come off of treatment, then you have to stay off. So, but your doctor has to take you there. But I have to say that viral suppression has to do with you staying on your meds, adhering, using your medication, keeping your body as healthy as you can, and keeping it suppressed. So if you come off, of course, it would not be suppressed anymore. The virus would start to act up in your system. And what might happen in that case is that your body will become immune to that line of treatment. And we only have 2 lines. And if your body becomes immune to both lines, then there is nothing else for you to have. So it is very important that you stay on your treatment. There's no cure for HIV, even though the virus is, if you're virally suppressed, it is not a cure. You still have the HIV in your system. So therefore, you need to keep taking the medication to remain virally suppressed. So what is our ship for today? And our ship is Stay at Home Inspiration Peace. And our ship for today is WAD. At this time, everyone would like to have a wad of money. So WAD is our ship for today. And W is to work with your family. A lot of times at this time, we're at home with our families to find out what is happening with our families. You feed your children, they go in their rooms, they're playing on their gadgets, whatever they are. You don't ask them, what is going on, how are you feeling about all of this, anything you want to talk about, your friends telling you anything, are you scared, are you... Work with your family, sit together, find out what is happening, especially at this time, and to see what best you can do to make their lives more comfortable while you're all at home during this COVID-19 pandemic. So do not bar your family. You got your own thing going on, and I stress out and I ain't able no more stress attack with this for deal with nobody's stress. I got to work with your family. Everything that you do, even with food, what do you like to eat today? I know my granddaughter, she don't like greens, and she's there picking out everything, all the chow mein and all. But you think I taking out the greens, out the chow mein, and then she can pick it out. Eventually, she can get tired of picking it out and she can eat it. I see it happen with my own. I had no choice, mommy. Otherwise, I was like, oh my God, I must have been a crazy woman. Until you don't eat my food, you're in trouble. But now, children have choices, and we know all about rights and responsibilities and stuff. And if a child doesn't like something, then they wouldn't eat it, and then they would be hungry, and then they would get ill. So, work with your family. Admit and accept your feelings. This is not a time for us to fend and prove. You know you're wrong, say you're wrong. This is not a time to fend and prove and argue, especially in front of children. When your partner get abused. No, I didn't say on this, now I didn't mean. And when you know very well that that's what you meant. Be honest. Admit to those feelings. Don't be too big to say you're sorry. Saying you're sorry, you made a mistake. And remember, people, when someone says sorry, it's not for you to be thrown in the face again to say, remember how you had to say sorry because you sorry, it's over, let's move on. This whole thing about letting the sun go down on your wrath. Ensure that you remember you still have those children who are there with you all the time, and they're looking at you and they're modeling you. And so ensure that you admit your feelings. You say sorry if you have to say sorry. So admit and accept. Okay, I did wrong. Let's move on. And D is for do those tasks that you plan. Remember, we talk about looking at things that you can do, looking after your special space and all of that. Do your task. Don't say you're going to do it and you're not doing it. So a good thing to do is to do a routine. You work out a routine, even if you have to write it down to say, when I wake up, I'm going to do so, I'm going to do so, I'm going to so. Because if you miss something on your routine today, you can put it over to do it on the next day, but you will try to do all the stuff that you plan to do in a day so that you can finish your task. And at the end of the day, you can say, yes, I did well. I was able to do everything that I planned to do. So what is your ship for today? Work with the family. Ensure you understand how everyone is feeling and help as much as you can. Love as much as you can. Admit and accept your feelings. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Say you're wrong. Say you're sorry. And also do your task. And it's good to have a routine. And that routine will protect you from going crazy and pulling out your hair and thinking that you got all these things to do and you can't get them done. So I haven't shout out to anyone. I want to shout out to Kathy Newport. I want to shout out to Bernadette Glasgow. Fiona, how you doing, girl? Fiona Bailey. Penelope Pollard from Atlanta. Suzanne Shaw. Hi, Susan. This is from Nitra Git, Susan. Beverly Gomes, love it. That's my girl. Used to do HIV, the GDF. Marvin Wilson, Rena Cummings, Lioness Thomas. How is the lion? I'm a lion myself. Hi, Winnie Wilkinson from the green state of Vermont. Christine Neblett. Hi, girl. How you doing? Yvette Lucky, Siobhan Williams, Leonard Walcott. Hi, Leonard. How you doing? Richard Bob, Cicely Newport. How you doing? How is everyone? Suan Johnson. Okay. So Friday we are going to be looking at every ending is a beginning. But before I go, I would like you to do something for me. I would like you to think about any scar you would have had in your life. It's a good way to deal with this COVID-19. Think about any scar you would have had in your life, any wound, anything, whether it's internal, whether it's external, whether it's a heartbreak, whatever, but it's a scar to cause a wound. So think about any wound, whether it was when you were small, playing in the yard, somebody throw you down, grace up your knee, whatever it was. Think about that time when you had that scar and how were you hurt? What caused that scar? Think about how did you feel at that time when that scar happened to you? And how do you feel about it now when thinking back on it? How do you feel about it now as compared to how you felt at the time when it happened? Who were those significant people that were there when that thing happened to help you through it? And how did they respond to you? How did they respond? How did they respond to make it better? Did they make it better? Did they make it worse? And what was said and done, or what was not said and what was not done. So think about that scar that you had long ago and how you got through it and how you became better as a result of it and what were the positives that came out as a result of that scar. And that's going to help you to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic, because this too is a scar. It is a wound. It is like I said, we were all in this storm, just that we were in different boats. We're not all in the same boats, but we were in the same storm. And so think about that, your scars, your old scars, we call them, and look for the stars that came out of those scars, because for every scar, there is a star. So thank you for joining me today. Remember, on Friday, we're going to be talking about every ending is a beginning. And we're going to look a little bit more about COVID-19 and HIV. Thank you for joining me. Do have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye now.